Ubisoft has hired an LGBTQ plus activist in what appears to be their historical consultant for the upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows game. And this person doesn't seem to be qualified to be a historical consultant at all. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. I wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com. Yes, that headline is accurate. Ubisoft hires LGBTQ plus activist as consultant who wants to challenge moral standards around transgenerational sex. This is not an understatement. That is what this person is advocating for. And this activist is Sachi Schmidt-Hori. She appeared alongside the game's associate narrative director, Brooke Davies, in an interview with IGN, or in a video that IGN produced, giving an inside look at the creation of the game. IGN detailed in a subsequent article that Schmidt-Hori is working with Ubisoft on Assassin's Creed Shadows. However, the outlet does not provide any further details as to what her involvement is. Clearly, she is involved in the creation of the narrative, as she is shown sitting next to Davies, specifically discussing the two characters, Naoe and Yasuke. She comments on how Naoe follows in the tradition of previous Japanese stories. This is what Schmidt-Hori says. Fighting a beautiful woman is a recurrent figure in Japanese literary creations. The sun goddess Amaterasu, she can turn into a ferocious fighter. And also the tale of the Heike features Tomo, who is a female warrior, and she is described as a beautiful woman who is as strong as 1,000 male samurai. Naoe, is kind of following the footsteps of her. So it looks like they're trying to justify the female shinobi character, Naoe, by following in the footsteps of Japanese literary tradition. That looks to be what they're doing here, and that's why they brought her on. And then as for Yasuke, she just says this. Yasuke has been featured in many creative writings and media so far. There's like a long, long list of novels, TV series, dramas that have been inspired by him. Yeah, I think people in Japan are really, really embracing him as a character, and we really like to, see him representing the samurai spirit. So I've seen some stuff on social media. It does not look like the Japanese are taking to Yasuke in Assassin's Creed Shadows here. But that's an article for maybe tomorrow. Video for tomorrow. Get into that. So let's get into who this Schmidt-Hori woman is. So obviously that's pretty much all how much all she appears in this video. I mean, you can see she's sitting next to Brooke Davies. You can see the Assassin's Creed Shadows kind of key art behind them. They're labeling her as a professor of Japanese literature and culture. She's clearly some kind of consultant. They're clearly using her to justify Naoe as being following in the footsteps of kind of this Japanese literary tradition. And then obviously kind of, I guess, is acting as a stand-in for the Japanese people on saying that they're going to like Yasuke. Because primarily it was Brooke Davies talking about most of what the characters' histories were, not Schmidt-Hori, which was interesting, right? But this is who Schmidt-Hori is. She's an associate professor at Dartmouth in the university's Art and Sciences department. Her biography on Dartmouth's website confirms she is an activist, at least in my opinion. She says here, I'm interested in investigating how gender, sexuality, corporeality, and power are represented and negotiated in pre-17th century Japanese narratives and illustrations. My first book, Tales of Idolized Boys, Male-Male Love in Medieval Japanese Narratives, is on medieval Chigo Monogatari, Buddhist acolyte tales, which often depict romantic relationships between Buddhist priests and adolescent boys. These tales challenge a host of normative and moral standards we academics especially internalize, including such ideas as sexual orientation, transgenerational sex, and sexual agency. Her biography continues saying, my current project is on the literary representations of milk kinships in pre-17th Japanese tales, including the tale of Oshikubo, the tale of Genji, the tales of the Heike. So you might think based on that biography, she's the one. She's saying that these tales are challenging the host of normative and moral standards. However, that's not true. She's doing that. She's the one who's doing that. Because if you go over to the official description for that book from the publisher, the University of Hawaii Press, it reveals that Schmidt-Hori, quote, calls for a shift in the hermeneutic strategies applied to Chigo and Chigo Monogatari and puts forth both a nuanced and historicization, meaning she's creating the history, she's making it up, of social constructs such as gender, sexuality, age, and agency, and a mode of reading propelled by curiosity and introspection. Earlier in the description for the book, it also says this: Sachi Schmidt-Hori begins by delineating various dimensions of Chigo. The Chigo title, personal names, gender, sexuality, class, politics, and religiosity, to show the complexity of this cultural construct. The Chigo as a triply liminal figure who is neither male nor female, child nor adult, human nor deity. A modern reception history of Chigo Monogatari follows, revealing, not surprisingly, that the tales have often been interpreted through cultural paradigms rooted in historical moments and worldviews far removed from the original. From the 1950s to 1980s, research on Chigo was hindered by widespread homophobic prejudice. More recently, aversion to the age gap in historical master-acolyte relations has prevented scholars from analyzing the religious and political messages underlying the genre. So there you go. She's clearly the one who's trying to break down those norms and analyze these works through that lens. Clearly, LGBTQ plus activist, clearly trying to push this stuff, clearly trying to interpret ancient Japanese stories. Not even ancient. I mean, 17th century. That's not even that ancient, right? So we're in what, the 21st century? So that's only what, 500 years ago. It's not too long ago. Looking at things from a relative perspective. But that is what she's doing. We have it from her own words, and we have it from the book's publisher, University of Hawaii Press. So this isn't unheard of from Ubisoft. We've seen this before from them. Obviously, they employed radical woke consultant Sweet Baby Inc. for their Assassin's Creed Valhalla game. We also got an alleged internal document that was shared to social media by Jeremy Hambley, a.k.a. The Quartering, that detailed how committed Ubisoft was as a company to woke ideology. You can see his post here. But as part of this document, it declared this: we are proud to represent the diversity and inclusion that exists in society as part of our everyday work. Representation is part of our DNA and will remain that way regardless of external pressure or influences. No, it won't if you go bankrupt and you have to shut down. I don't think so. That's not how that works. Those external pressures, aka gamers not buying your products, will clearly make it so that representation won't be part of your DNA anymore because you won't exist. And we've seen this happen already. Just look at Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, $200 million loss for Warner Brothers. Saints Row, Volition does not even exist anymore. Embracer Group shut it down. Speaking of Embracer Group, they don't exist anymore. They're breaking up into 3 separate entities, or it is breaking up into 3 separate entities. So, and what is going on at Microsoft? They just shut down a number for at least 4, Arcane Austin being probably the biggest one, 4 studios that were a part of Bethesda that Microsoft purchased a couple years ago. So this idea that you think you're going to be around in the future might not be the case. We've seen lots of video game companies shut down or get shut down by their parent companies. So those external pressures could definitely end up eradicating the woke ideology that you are claiming is part of your DNA because you won't exist anymore. Nevertheless, the document here concluded Ubisoft firmly stands for diversity and inclusion in our workplace and our games, and we believe there is no room for hate in gaming. Utterly ridiculous statement. It's also hypocritical too and contradictory because the whole diversity and inclusion stuff is hate. It is code for hate. That's what it is. We have numerous articles explaining this to us that diversity is basically white genocide. There is an article written back in 2015 about this. You see it in practice. Diversity is anti-white if you look at how it is applied in practice as well. That is hate. That's what they are actually standing for while they are trying to say that it has no place when they're the ones actually advocating the hate. But that's what I got to say here. This is not surprising. And I hope this game fails. I know Assassin's Creed is a huge IP. It's probably Ubisoft's biggest IP. And it'll probably do decent, but it might not do as good as previous installments. We already have kind of seen that with Spider-Man and Insomniac. Marvel's Spider-Man, I think, did 24 plus million copies sold. Spider-Man 2, last I saw, was like 10 million. So it hasn't even done half of what the first one did. And that's huge cut there. So I think that as gamers, if we stick together, boycott this game like we did Suicide Squad, kill the Justice League, we can continue to eradicate this woke ideology from these video game companies. Let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. As always, remember to be charitable to each other, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.